Welcome to Whiskey's a Journey. My name is Peter Fasciano. Today is the last Friday in January, and I'm going to be doing a final Friday flight fight. Based on the thumbnail, you already know that it's the Four Roses. Four Roses recently came out with brand new single barrels, and the recipes to those single barrels are different than the original one. So if you are not familiar with this kind of segment, I've selected a distillery. I'm going to go through a sample of what they offer. I'm going to nose them, taste them, and then figure out which one I like the most. Before I get this thing going, let me tell you what I've got. So I've got the very first single barrel, the OESO. These are all 100 proof, but each one of them is going to have a different recipe. I got these at Trevor's Liquor. If you were ever in Arizona or in the Phoenix area, I highly suggest go to Trevor's. Actually, I was going to say skip the big box stores, but if you're here hunting whiskey, definitely go to Trevor's because they have a different assortment that some of the big box store offerings don't have. So definitely check them out. They've got 4 locations. They have one in Paradise Valley, one on McDowell, one over in Scottsdale, Mayo by the Mayo Clinic, and then they have one in the Arcadia. And they have the other one in the Arcadia district. So right now we got the OESO. I've got the OBSF. I've got the OESK. These are all of the brand new releases. And then I'm going to put these up against the old one, which is the OBSV. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but my guess is going to be every year they are going to release 3 more new releases of their 10 recipes. And then the following year, they will release 3 more. And by that time, in 2 years' time, they will have all of their 10 recipes that are out there in their single barrel offerings. And I do believe they're still going to be doing, the single barrel selects that are higher proof than their normal single barrels. These are $52.99. So let me go ahead and clear these things out of here. And then the last thing that I need to say before we get this thing going is the recipes. So the OBSF, or the letterings, you basically have to just know 2 of the letters. The first letter, the O, just means that it's Four Roses Distillery. The S, the third letter, just means that it's a straight bourbon or a straight bourbon whiskey. The second letter and the last letter are the 2 important ones. The second letter is the mash bill. If it's an if it is an E, the mash bill is 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. It's their lower rye mash bill. If the second letter is a B, it's their high rye mash bill, 60% corn, 35% rye, 5% malted barley. And then the last letter deals with their yeast strain. And apparently the yeast is going to give it a little bit of a different character. They've got 5 yeast strains, O, F, K, V, and Q. So based on that information, you have an idea of what you're getting. Let's get the lids off of these. I have them stickered on the bottom, so I kind of have an idea of what it is that I'm tasting at the end. That was a huge introduction. I hope you're still here. So let me go ahead and start on my left and work my way to the right. All right, that has a little bit of a dusty, funky note. Glass 2, all cherries. Glass 3, kind of similar to glass number 1, a little bit of a funky note to it, wet cardboard. And then glass number 4 is cherries. Whatever that funky note is that I get in Four Roses, I'm not the biggest fan of. The cherry note I love. They have, in my experience in the past, they have, I think, pretty traditional brown sugar and vanilla and caramel notes, but maybe it's the yeast strain that they're using that kind of throws me off a little bit, which causes me not to really like the flavor profile of any of the Four Roses. So let me go ahead and now concentrate a little bit more on the nose and on the palate. I've got my pad of paper, I've got my water so I can rinse in between. All right, so now the second nosing of glass number 1. is a little bit cherry. And I do get a pretty good amount of cooking spice as well. Like a cinnamon, somewhere around Christmas time, like Christmas spices. Ginger, allspice, something like that. Cinnamon, ginger, allspice. And then that cherry note is there. And that ABV, even though it's 100 proof, is still, or 50% ABV, is still hitting my nose pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Very fruity. That first sip is not the traditional Four Roses that I dislike. That is good. It's vanilla, it's cherry, it's good spice, balanced with that sweetness of the cherry. I like that one quite a bit. Get a glass of water, rinse, and then move on to glass number 2. All right, glass number 2. Glass number 2 has a little bit more spice coming through. Cherry note still there. All right, let's get it on the palate. All right, sip number 2. It's not as vibrant as glass number 1, but I tell you what, I'm struggling with my mouth watering. So glass number 2 on that sip, I'm still getting some cherry. That spice is a little bit more mellow, so mellow spice, and it is more subdued. Well, I'm actually not going to write that just because it was my second sip. Let me get a rinse of water, move on to glass number 3. All right, glass 3. Glass 3, cherry, earthy. Just on the nose itself, a little bit of spice reminds me of the spice that's coming out of glass number 1. All right, get this thing on the palate. All right, glass number 3, another step down as far as the vibrancy goes. So in order, and it just may have been my order of sipping. Glass 1 was vibrant, not as vibrant, and not nearly as vibrant as the next one. So when I go off air and A/B compare them, I might get something a little bit different. But that is very similar to glass number 2. So it's cherry and mellow cherry. All right, glass of water, move on to glass 4. I lost the cherry note. Even more subdued. So going back to these is going to be interesting. All right, let's get this thing on the palate. That's a little bit, I don't know, oaky. It's not as sweet as the others, and it's not as interesting. So what I'm going to do off air, I'm going to go back through the other direction. I'm going to A/B compare them in between. I'm going to let my palate calm down, see which ones I really like, pull some more notes out, because right now, just that fast zipping through, it's pretty much dominated by cherry and spice with a little bit of oak. So I'll be right back, and I will give you some more in-depth notes based on what I got off air, so I'm not sitting here for 25 minutes, 30 minutes, kind of him-hawing back and forth. So I'll be right back. All right, I had to stop. My palate started to get a little bit saturated even while I was waiting in between sips, drinking water. They all started tasting the same after a little bit. So let me read through my original notes. Glass number 1 was cherry, good spice, well balanced. Going back to it off air, I said that this was the most red fruit forward cherry bubblegum. It had the most balance with the sweet and the spice. I liked glass 1 the most. Glass number 2, I said it was cherry with mellow spice. On going back to the other direction and A/B comparing it, it came across as earthy, floral, low spice, and a little bit drying oak. I think I liked this one the least. So that goes in 4th place. Glass number 3, I said it had a pretty mellow cherry note. It was pretty earthy, pretty oaky, pretty drying. And then when I went back to it, I said it was oak forward, spice, cherry, and drying in that order. And I also felt that it was pretty spicy. And I think the spice was a little bit overwhelming the sweetness that was in there. So I'm going to put that one in 3rd place. And then in 4th place, or sorry, my 4th glass here, I said that this one was oaky. It was the least fruity, and it was the least bold or the least amount of vibrancy. And then when I went back the other direction, I said it was, again, the most mellow. It had a good oak note. It had low sweet and low spice, but that cherry oak note that came through in the end and the finish, it lingered there a little bit, and this caused me to put that into second place. So I have first place, glass number 1, second place, glass number 4, fourth place, glass number 2, third place, glass number 3. So I do have to say my first and second place, I would like to reach for these again and maybe throw them into my blind sample pool and see which one I really do prefer the most. So you guys already know what it is that I've been drinking, but let's go ahead and reveal what they actually are now. So in my fourth place, I put glass number 2, Earthy Floral. I'm not a big floral fan. This was the OESK. So the OESK, on the back, this says baking spice, mellow oak, tea leaves, and caramel. So that one was my least favorite. So actually, I'll just keep them over there, and I'll just put it up here, which one in what place. Third place was right next to it, glass number 3, and this one was the OBSF. So the OBSF is saying that it's delicate rye, apple, mint, clove, and cocoa. So that ended up being my third place. And then in second place, I said mellow, most mellow oak, low sweetness, well balanced, but the oak and cherry, nice linger on the finish. This is the OBSV. OBSV. The OBSV is the original. So OBSV doesn't say anything on the back. Got a little floaty in there. So OBSV, the original, got second place. So again, that kind of, I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it. Now I like it again. And then first place obviously is going to be one of the newer single barrels. And this one just all around was my favorite. Every aspect, on the nose, on the palate, OESO. So the OESO was first, and I don't know if these are going to stay in focus. Fourth place, I'm not going to do that. And then fourth place was there. So I'm just going to keep them up there. And this on the back says rich red fruit, which is understandable. That definitely came across as the most red fruit forward of them all. Vanilla, brown sugar, those are all the traditional notes that, I'm kind of not getting tired of saying, but if it's a bourbon, it's going to have those notes. And then delicate oak. So OESO takes it for me for first place. I know these have been recently released. If you have gone through and have had an opportunity to do these blind, what order do you have them in? If you've only had one of these and you put it up against the older single barrel, how did it fare? Do you have a favorite recipe? Are you a recipe hunter that goes out and tries to find those single barrel selects that emphasize at a higher proof the individual recipes? That was interesting. I didn't think I was going to like this flight as much as I did. If you like this video as much as I liked doing this flight, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you do like this, subscribe to the channel. Just go ahead and click on that little button right there. Turn that bell notification on because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let me know your thoughts on Four Roses. Do you like them? Do you not like them? If you do like them, which release of them do you like the most? Leave some comments down below on all of that. Again, a reminder, 11:59 tonight, p.m. is going to be my deadline for the January giveaway. All the rules are in the description below. And looking at my calendar, I think probably my Wednesday, sip it or skip it, I'll spin the wheel and then I'll select my winner for January. And this is something that I haven't said in the past. If you are the first person to contribute to the channel in the month's giveaway, I will give you an extra entry. So if you do $5, you get one entry. Being the first person, I'll give you an extra entry, so you'll have two for the month of February. All right, so let's go ahead and get this blend on the nose and on the palate. This is almost like the small batch select, having 4 of the recipes in here. Yeah, it's cherry, it's oaky, It's vanilla. Yeah, cherry, oaky, vanilla. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Very spice forward, very oaky, very dry. A slight amount of sweetness. I wouldn't say that it's bad, but if you were attempting to do a blend, like a little small batch select of your own, I can see how it might work with different variations or different ratios of each one. Yeah, it just tastes like Four Roses to me. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's lingering around a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to go in for another sip. If you've done any blending of your own with Four Roses, leave some comments down below on which recipes you've mixed together that were pretty good. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. All right, wherever you're at in your journey, I hope you're enjoying it. Until the next time, we'll talk to everybody later. Bye. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that one. Pretty good. All right, we'll see everybody later.